8-year-old Xander is often front and center in his family.
He's outgoing. He's fun.
Crazy, tough, ornery.
He's also the youngest of Julie and George Wright's 6 children, so they knew when what they thought was a stomach bug might be something more.
It was the blood and the diarrhea. Because we thought it was the stomach flu.
They took Xander to urgent care, which sent him to Stormont Vale's ER, where the diagnosis was unexpected. Xander was infected with E. coli.
We didn't know where it could have come from.
And it got worse.
He wouldn't talk. He just laid there.
The particular strain of E. coli Xander had produced toxins. After several days, it started attacking his red blood cells, shutting down his kidneys. Stormont loaded Xander on Lifestar for a flight to Children's Mercy.
I wanted to jump on the helicopter with him. It was hard because then we had our other kids come in and tell him goodbye. And they started crying.
I didn't think I could cry as much as I did, but I did. It was very scary.
Unfortunately, Xander and his family aren't alone.
Most commonly, that occurs in young children.
Stormont's infectious disease specialist, Dr. Joanne Harris, says she's seen an uptick in pediatric E. coli cases this year. Shawnee County reports 8 of them, the highest in at least 5 years. Statewide, there have been 68 Shiga toxin-producing E. coli cases in patients aged 19 or younger. That's up from 54 last year. While cases linked to restaurants, like the recent Chipotle outbreak, make news, Harris says the E. coli bacteria can lurk anywhere and be ingested.
It's contaminated food, could be contaminated water, it could be playing in an area where there's been manure.
To protect yourself and your family, Harris says cook meat to proper temperatures, wash all produce, and wash something else.
What you need to use is make sure you wash your hands. That's the most important thing. When kids come in from the outside, wash your hands. When you're preparing food, wash your hands. After you go to the bathroom, wash your hands.
It may not prevent all cases, but it's a start.
Do your homework on it. Just because it seems like it's a cold or stomach flu, don't hesitate to take your kid in.
Xander spent nearly a month in the hospital and has been through a half dozen dialysis treatments.
Thank you so much for all the prayers and letting us know that you're there.
Thankfully, his kidney function is returning, and he's expected to make a full recovery.
I don't know what I'd have done if something would have happened to him.
Melissa Brunner, 13 News. 11-month-old Titan Larson is filled with smiles and laughter.
He's always been very happy. He loves his sister. His sister is his favorite person.
But behind those smiles lies a different tune.
Well, he's had somewhere upwards of 40 x-rays. He's been poked and prodded so many times with IVs, PICC lines, midlines. I think he's been in the hospital a total of 62 days so far.
Titan was born at 34 weeks. Initially, trouble with gas, bloating, and lack of bowel movements was attributed to his prematurity, but it didn't get better. Finally, the family got an appointment at Children's Mercy.
By the time we got there, his intestines were the size of baseballs.
Within that day, they did a biopsy of his colon, and they gave us a diagnosis of Hirschsprung's.
When they said Hirschsprung's, we were like, what's that?
Hirschsprung's disease affects 1 in 5,000 children in the U.S. Nerve cells are missing from part of the child's colon, making them unable to pass stool. Titan underwent surgery to remove the diseased portion of the colon. He then used ostomy bags until, at 9 months, a second surgery reconnected his bowel.
That was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do, was hand him off to the surgeons.
Doctors say the surgeries were successful, but Titan's not out of the woods yet. Kids with Hirschsprung's are at risk for enterocolitis, a severe infection of the intestines. It recently sent him back to the hospital for 10 days.
We have to monitor him constantly.
All of which puts a strain on the family. Financially, Lee, who's an apprentice plumber, has taken many unpaid days off, and Ariel was forced to stop working.
Insurance is great once you hit the deductible, but everything up until there it's just been really hard, and he's had so many prescriptions.
Not to mention the emotional toll, especially on 4-year-old Evelyn.
I've been away from her almost as much as he's been in the hospital, so that's been really difficult.
But they balance it all with laughter and love. While Hirschsprung's has no cure, there is hope. Symptoms and infection risk usually decrease as children get older, and for that, they are thankful.
I just hope that he can be happy and healthy and not hurting.
Carrie Livgren beat the odds with the band Kansas.
I went from a struggling local Topeka musician all the way to nearly the top of the charts. I was living a dream.
Then he became a statistic.
And I was a healthy man, went to bed, nearly died in the night.
One of the nearly 800,000 Americans every year who'll suffer a stroke. It happened to him in September 2009 in the middle of the night.
I walked in the bathroom and I splashed some water in my face, and that's the last thing I remember. I hit the floor, and I was out for nearly 2 weeks.
Unfortunately, Carrie says he didn't show any of the typical warning signs earlier in the evening. You can remember them as FAST.
F stands for face, and what we're looking for is a drooping of the face. A stands for arm, and what that is that's weakness. So, if you were to lift both arms up and you see one, that's dropping, or they're not able to hold, both arms up, that again, is a sign of a stroke. And then the other one is speech. And what we're listening for is like slurred speech, or not able to make words or make sense of words.
The T is time. Dr. Sarah Sarton says it's time to call 911 and make note of the time the symptoms started. The more immediate the treatment, the greater options to restore the oxygen the stroke is cutting off.
That muscle or that brain is going without blood flow, so you're having cell death over time.
The timing worked against Carrie.
And the first time I picked up the guitar and attempted to play it, I was just crestfallen.
The stroke affected his motor skills. He had to relearn to speak.
I was just speaking gibberish.
And for a while, he couldn't recall the Bible or how to work a computer. He's come a long way. And he hopes others tune in to the lessons from his journey.
If I can prevent one person, just one person, from going through the horror of a stroke, I will do whatever it takes to do that. This experience tops it all as far as being blessed.
Andy Fry prefers transportation of the two-wheeled variety. The importance of safety clicks with him because of what happened on a ride 2 years ago.
I hear the car, I go to look, and I see the car, and as I start to utter words, I get hit. My bike flew up in the air, I flew up in the air, came down on my knees and my wrists.
The force knocked off Andy's shoes, but he suffered only scrapes and bruises and one broken bone at the base of his thumb.
I was really lucky.
Indeed, he was. In 2013, bicycle wrecks claimed 743 lives and injured 48,000 people.
There'll be injuries such as broken arms, broken legs, but they can also have pretty significant facial or head trauma as well.
Dr. William Sachs says the most important thing bicyclists can do to prevent serious injury is wear a helmet every time you hop on for a ride, and always be aware because you never know.
No matter how good you are on the bike, there's other people out there with cars that pose a significant threat.
Andy knows that all too well. In his case, he was obeying all traffic laws and the driver who hit him fled the scene. Still, he's used his experience to spin a message of safety and awareness.
We're all out there together and sharing the road.
Andy is involved with the Topeka Community Cycle Project and has become a certified instructor. He says just like driver's ed before starting an engine, pedal power requires lessons too.
Being situationally aware of where you're at in context of the road as well as with other vehicles on the road. Being predictable in the way you ride. Signaling and allowing other vehicles to know what you intend to do is a lot of times half the battle in preventing issues.
As for motorists, Kansas law requires vehicles allow at least 3 feet passing distance around bikes. Andy says giving space and a mutual respect will smooth most bumps in the road.
It's in everybody's interest that we don't have incidents or wrecks.
All right, Caden, you're going to go on your swing.
The joy Ashley and Benny Hernandez find in their daughter Caden is obvious.
She's our little miracle baby because she's doing so well now.
At 23 weeks, Ashley developed preeclampsia. It quickly escalated, and March 10th, at just 25 weeks, doctors delivered Caden by emergency C-section.
My head just went blank. I didn't know what to expect, but we expected for the worst.
Caden weighed 16 ounces, just 11.5 inches long, her entire hand no bigger than the end of Dad's pinky. Doctors said she had a 50-50 chance of survival. The odds of living with no major complications, just 20%.
It was very scary for us as parents to look at her, not knowing what the outcome was. I mean, she wasn't guaranteed survival, so every day we were just hanging on and hoping for the best.
Dr. Rohita Swanee was part of the team caring for Caden at Stormont Vale's NICU.
They made sure that I understand the meaning of the name, which was a fighter, which just brings a positive energy.
Dr. Swanee says most organs aren't mature until 34 weeks, so babies born as early as Caden have a lot to fight.
We are looking at immaturity of all the organs, ranging from brain and heart and intestine. So when all the organs are immature, we see complications which range from bleeding in the brain to severe infections, since our immunity is also low and the bone marrow is also immature.
Every day we were scared for her.
Caden had chronic lung disease, growth retardation, and a heart murmur. It was 6 weeks before Ashley and Benny got to hold her at all of 2 pounds.
I just felt like any movement, sudden movement, I was gonna hurt her, break something, and I just was so scared. I mean, it was a very scary moment.
At 2 months, Caden was transferred to Children's Mercy for heart surgery. 8 weeks later, they returned to Stormont, where Caden continued to thrive, and in early August, she finally got to go home with her parents and 8-year-old big sister, Adrian.
That was the best day ever. I was happy, but then once we walked through these doors and the NICU nurses weren't here, that's when I got scared. But we figured it out.
Now nearing 6 months, Caden just needs low-dose oxygen, which she's expected to outgrow. She's eating fine and is on track developmentally. The couple credits support from their families and the NICU staff, along with their love for each other and faith.
We know that God doesn't make mistakes, and we were just happy that she was in our life. We were very blessed. So miracles do happen.